Hello and welcome to this final Tech Thursday of 2023. I hope you're all very well. Say hello to me in the comments if you are, and let me know if you can hear me and you can see me all right. That's the most important things to this session. So this Tech Thursday is, of course, the last one of the year. We will be doing lots more Tech Thursdays next year, but we're very, very close to Christmas now. So if you are celebrating Christmas, I hope you have a fantastic one. It's only in a couple of days. And if you're not, I hope whatever you get up to is also equally fantastic. Now, if you don't know me, my name is David, and I'm one of the technical experts here in the UK for OMSYSTEM. And today I wanted to talk to you about bokeh and some of my favorite lenses that create excellent bokeh, particularly at this time of the year, because there are lots of magical lights around creating a festive vibe, and they're great to take photographs of, particularly with things like portraits. So we're going to look at how we can do that today and just have a little bit of a chat about 5 lenses that I really enjoy using for that kind of stuff. We'll also talk about some of the techie parts about it, what you should really look out for when you're trying to capture bokeh in your images. For those that are saying, what's this silly word that he's saying, bokeh? It's that lovely out of focus sort of globular effect that you get from lights when they're out of focus in your background. So I'll have a little look at some of those. I'm just going to check into my comments now and make sure that everyone can hear me. Brilliant stuff. Richard's confirmed that he can hear me loud and clear, and I'm going to assume that the rest of the world equally can also hear loud and clear as well. Hello to Jeff, Chris, Oyen, and another Chris as well in the comments. Now, as always, Tech Thursday is a place where you can come in and ask loads of questions. And we kind of already did that this week already. We had the fantastic Ask Me Anything session with some of the other technical experts and Claire Harvey-May on lenses earlier this week. And that was a fantastic session. Lots of people attending, and we got through loads of cool questions. But feel free to bring more questions into the chat. And if I've got time, I will do my very best to answer them. I'll kind of jump in and out of the chat questions as well as talking about the kind of Bokeh-licious lenses that I like using as well. So let's take a quick look into the comments and see if anybody's got any questions before I start talking about these lenses. There was one sitting in there before we started from Richard, who said Merry Christmas from Florida. So Merry Christmas, Richard. Thank you for dropping in, and thank you for the Christmas wishes. Richard's asked a question that came up in the Ask Me Anything on Tuesday and answered by our excellent technical expert, PJ, which is when using the 100 to 400, should I turn off the lens stabilization and use only the camera IBIS? And the discussion that we had, and PJ, our tech expert from Poland, quite rightly said, if you're using the 100 to 400 at the sort of top 400 end, then absolutely use lens IS priority. Okay, so it's really important that you're stabilizing that very far end, because that's where most of the movement is going to happen. But if you're using 100 to 200 millimeters, then you can use the in-body IBIS, because of course, with the 100 to 400 not being a pro lens, there is no sync IS. Both ISs work, but independently of each other. So I hope that answers your question as well there, Richard. Loads of people dropping into the comments. Let's see. Excuse me. Tansy and and the amazing Tor, who has, I think, in one word, demanded that I bring back an old favorite, and sadly he's not going to be with us tonight. Tor has demanded Chewbacca, who has made a rather festive appearance in the past. Chewie, my little Chewie, I have a small little bobblehead of Chewbacca from Star Wars, and he's actually been kidnapped by my youngest daughter. He now lives in her room, and I don't think I'm ever going to get Chewie back, so we've had to come up with something else today. But hi, Tor, good to see you in here. Doug, Kevin, and the Gaza, which is fantastic. Gaza in Dover in Kent, lovely to see you. Okay, so make sure you put plenty of questions in these comments for me, unless you just want to say hi. I'm more than happy to say hi, but what I really, really want to do tonight is talk about these lenses, okay? So I've got my overhead camera on. We're going to switch over to that. So remember, unlike in the Ask Me Anything session on Tuesday, today I'm all on my own. So I'm doing all the buttons and the whiz banging and the pop and the pressing of things here. So if it all goes wrong, I am super, super sorry. But here we go. Let's try this one. There we go. Fantastic stuff. So we've got that first lens in my overhead view now. So this, my first choice, is the amazing and not too old 20mm f1.4 lens. Now, this is a superb, superb lens. I've used this one extensively, particularly for things like street photography. It's a really, really beautiful, beautiful lens. And I particularly like it because it's an f1.4 lens. Now, that's great for the kind of stuff that I want to do with it today, because it means that it's going to bring loads and loads of light in, and it's going to absolutely blow these sort of bokeh balls apart, which is precisely what we're looking for. Now, there's a couple of things to note about the 20mm. This is a pro lens, which means that we're IP53 weather sealed. Okay, we do not have a pro clutch on this lens, and this is to make that lens nice and small. Okay, so the reason we didn't put that pro clutch on is to keep the lens small. It's all about, you know, being able to be mobile and move without the weight of extra heavy kit. And then the other thing I want to point out about all of these lenses is that they will all tell you on the back, at the bottom, very, very faint writing, but they'll all tell you their minimum focusing distances. So this one, which I'm not sure you'll be able to see on the camera here, but it is about 0.25 meters. There is also 0.82 feet conversion as well in there. And what this means is that the camera and lens combined will be able to focus at its closest point 0.25 meters away from the sensor. Okay, now that is the sensor focusing distance, not the working distance. So the working distance is from the front element to the subject, but the focusing distance would always be from where the sensor is back here. So it's important to remember that. So that's one of the first lenses that I'm going to look at today, and we will put it onto the camera in a little while. I'm just going to pop this to one side because I'm going to move over to the second lens that we're going to look at as well. I'm going to pop the lens cap off here, and this is the fabulous 25mm f1.8 lens. We are going to look at 1.2 as well, but this is the 25mm 1.8 lens, and it's an absolutely fantastic tiny lightweight lens. This is going to give us some really, really nice, delicious looking bokeh. And again, we've got a focusing distance on this one written on the side here of 0.25 meters. Okay, so we'll be able to use this one at a similar sort of distance to the 20mm if we want to. Okay, so the 20mm is just that little bit wider. Now, of course, its posh big brother is the 25mm f1.2, and this is the Pro Series lens. It does have that lovely manual focus clutch with the distance meter underneath there as well that you can use. It's an IP53 rated lens. It's a sterling piece of glass, and again, this is going to give you your minimum focusing distances, which is a little bit further on this one. This is a 0.30 meter focusing distance lens, and because it's a 1.2 lens, it's going to bring more light into the camera, and it's going to make those bokeh balls absolutely enormous as well. So if you look at the comparison between these two, the size is the first thing that we think about, isn't it? Because obviously this is a little bit bigger. For comparison, all of the f1.2 range of primes are actually very similar, if not identical, in size and weight to the 12-40 Pro lens as well. So really, really similar. In fact, I've got a 12-40 Pro lens just over here. And if I just pop off the lens hood from that, and we look at them side by side, you can see that they are super, super close in size. So that's the 12-40 and that's the 25. So, but for what this is going to give you with that f1.2 aperture, it's really still quite a light lens, just even lighter when you go for the 1.8. So if you're considering either of these, you definitely have to think about which one you want to go for in terms of the aperture rating, which one you really feel is more important in terms of the weight, and of course the value of these two is different. So you're looking, if we look at sort of UK and Europe prices, then for the 25mm you're looking at about £250, and then for the Pro 1.2 lens you're looking for about £1,000. So there is quite a difference, but there is a huge difference in the quality and the results as well. Now, this is where we kind of have to jump backwards and forwards in between these so that I can see what's going on in terms of questions coming in. So let me just have a quick scan through. Lots of more people saying hello. We've got Rob in Pittsburgh. Sherby's in. Hello, Sherby. Kevin, Mary, happy Christmas. Happy Christmas to you as well, Mary. We've got, I think I'm going to go for it. We've got Vadraunicek in Poland. Good to see you as well. Thanks for dropping in. And we've got Xavier in Catalonia. Oh, beautiful part of the world. Fantastic. Loads of hellos. And Margot. Hello, Margot in Atlanta. Fantastic stuff. Okay. So Chris has said Bokeh wasn't a thing when you started photography all those decades ago, but it's such a huge thing now. Bokeh is something that lots of people like to focus on in terms of abstract photography, portrait photography, things like that. We're always looking for that lovely, blurry background with those really nice kind of specular highlights that just pop out into massive globes. Now you can kind of see it on the camera that you're seeing me on now. If we look at the background that's going on behind me, I'm actually using a 17mm f1.2 lens as my webcam lens, and you can see that. But when we think about Bokeh, we have a certain amount of control over how big those Bokeh balls are, those lovely balls of light are in the background, because you can see right now they're fairly little. And for those of you not in the know, you would think, well, hang on a minute, David, you're using an f1.2 lens as your webcam lens, but those Bokeh balls don't look very big. Now, of course, if I was to change some things, then they would grow and shrink. And one of the biggest things that makes that happen is something called compression. So when we compress the image together, when we use either a super long focal length, which this isn't, it's a 17mm, it's quite wide. But if we use sort of a 100, 200, 300mm lens, we're compressing that image together and those Bokeh balls would become bigger. Now, if you can't do that because you've got a 17mm lens on there, then what you need to do is bring the subject that you're focusing on, which is me, closer to the lens. Now, I'm not going to put my face right in that lens because nobody needs to see that at all. But what I will do is if I was to present you with this lens up close and the camera focuses on it, then you'll see in the background that those Bokeh balls have become lovely and globular. And you can actually see as well that my 17mm lens needs a clean, because there are dust particles, and I can see them on the front of that lens, that are showing up in my Bokeh. As I take that away, you'll see those Bokeh balls get smaller. And if I whiz myself all the way over here, they are really tiny. They don't exist anymore. So that's all about compressing the subject and making sure that you're controlling the size of that Bokeh. Now, we will talk about dusty lenses because it's on my little sheet of things to do just here. And it's good that it actually came up. I'm just going to put my hand back in front of the camera here, and you can see there in some of those Bokeh balls, those tiny little spots, and that is debris, dust on the front of the lens. And we'll talk about that. And shame on me for not cleaning my webcam lens, because I spent an hour cleaning all the other ones today as well. Okay, so going back into the comments, David Smith, another one. I know this David Smith. Hello, David. Any news on the 90mm macro? We are still exactly where we were in terms of announcements on that one, so nothing new. Can't wait. I mean, I would love a New Year's present, but we just don't know yet, so keep your fingers crossed for that one. Kay's in from Germany. You're welcome for the video. Philip's in from Queensland. Oh, do you ever use mirror lenses? I don't. Well, I've used to use mirror lenses, but I haven't used them for a very, very long time. 500mm mirror lens, very good. Yeah, but that's a kind of different style, so I approve, but I don't use them anymore. Rob, yes, the 20mm f1.4 is excellent. It is really, really good. It's a great walk around lens as well. And Sherby, yeah, all of the lenses that we're talking about today will work on your EM1 Mark II because they're all macro four thirds. They're all either Olympus or OM system. So they will all work on any previous OMDs and, of course, the new OMs as well. Hello, Terry Day. Good to see you in again. It was nice to see you on Tuesday night as well. Okay, right. So questions in the comments, please. And I'll try and highlight them as we go through. Let's go back in and have a last look, at these other lenses that I'm going to use tonight, and then we'll perhaps talk about how to avoid those kind of dust spots and things like that. I think we'll go down that route. So let me press some buttons back to the overhead, and I think the next one I was going to show you, we did those two. Oh, yes. One that doesn't often get thought about in this way, and that is the 60mm macro lens, because it's not just a macro lens. This can be used really, really effectively as a portrait lens. Now, as most of you that know me will know that I pretty much predominantly use it as a macro lens. But 60mm, or what the equivalent would be 120mm crop equivalent, is a fantastic focal length for portraiture. It's an f2.8 lens as well, which has given us loads of light and lovely smooth out of focus areas. And this one is a Not that you really need it at that level, but it's a minimum focusing distance of 19 centimeters, so 0.19 meters. And again, written quite nicely on the lens for you. Well, you've got the focus limiter here that tells you that anyway, but also written on the back side of the lens. Now, you do need to make sure when you're using this lens for portraiture that you take the focus limiter switch either to the 0.19 to infinity or 0.4 to infinity lens. I, generally speaking, would use the 0.4 to infinity lens because we're not taking portraits 20 centimeters away. So 0.4 meters is ideal for that. Now, one of the other reasons why I love using this lens for portraiture, and even for the out of focus areas for macro as well, is that the bokeh will actually be a hexagon. So it'll have these lovely squared edges because of the way the aperture blades work inside of this lens. You get lovely square hexagonal bokeh, and we'll see that later on today as well. So we'll pop that to one side and bring in the penultimate lens that we're going to look at today before we actually put them on a camera. And this is the absolutely amazing 45mm f1.8 lens. This is probably one of the most famous lenses in the Micro Four Thirds setup because it's such a popular lens. It's such an excellent price. It's so easily achievable by many people to get hold of, and it absolutely blows portraits out of the water. So it's a 90mm crop equivalent, f1.8, absolutely beautiful to use. This one is going to give you, let me find the focusing distances, which I can't quite see on here. So bear with me, there we go. This one's going to give you a minimum focusing distance of 0.5 meters, so half a meter. So you have to bear that in mind when you're thinking about your subject, because of course, as I just showed you, the closer you are to your subject and the further away the background is, the better those bokeh areas are going to be, and that's how compression works. With this one, you do need to be careful because you're going up to 0.5 meters. There is another prime lens in the layout that gives you, again, superb out of focus areas, but you do need quite a lot of space with that one, and that's the 75. We've looked at that in the past, and we will definitely look at it again in the future. But the 45mm for me, absolutely phenomenal, beautiful lens to use, particularly if you're on a budget, because this comes in at a very, very good price. Wherever you are in the world, this is not an expensive lens to get hold of. So 45mm f1.8 leads us on to what I consider to be my ultimate portrait lens, personally, and that is the 45mm f1.2 Pro lens with the manual focus clutch, with the IP53 rating. Absolutely stunningly beautiful piece of glass. This one is going to give you focusing distances here again of 0.5 meters, so it's going to be exactly the same as this one, and it's very similar in size difference to the 25mm lenses, the 1.2 and the 1.8. So that size difference is something again that you'll need to weigh up, and whether or not the Pro version is for you. There is a huge jump in the cost, obviously, which we're not going to sort of shy away from, but you do get lots of extra image quality, you get the extra coatings, you get the extra stop, you get a lens function button, you get a manual focus clutch. It's just a beautiful, beautiful Pro Series lens on this one. Absolutely fantastic. Love that lens to pieces. And if we look at those two together, the 45 ones together and the 25 together, they're very, very similar. Okay. So let's come back up here. I know everybody hates it when I put this camera back on. You want to see more of the action. We'll get to some of it, don't worry. Just going to bob back into the comments and see what's going on. Sherby was saying in here, Sherby has the 12 to 40 Pro lens. Would I recommend the smaller lens that I was talking about? I think it was the 1.2. So the 1.2 lenses are pretty much the same size as the 12 to 40. You do have the option to go to a small lens, which is the 25mm, which is the prime, or the 45mm, which is also the other prime. They're obviously not zoom lenses. They're one fixed focal length, and it would depend. Now, Sherby, I know that you do, you make jewelry, Sherby. I've seen lots of it. It's absolutely fantastic. If anyone wants to see Sherby's jewelry, check that out. The 60mm macro, because I don't know if you've already got it or not, but it's going to help you get close up to that jewelry, but it's also going to give you that flexibility to get distance as well. So the 60mm macro is probably the better one for you, Sherby. Okay, let's see what we've got in here. Lots of people saying good results. Hello to Dave from Aberdeen. Steve, what is? I don't know. That's it, Steve. I think probably press send before we finish that one, Steve. So catch me up on that one. There we go. I've got it at the end. What is a typical filter size difference when going up to pro lenses? Interestingly, the 12 to 40 2.8 Pro zoom is a 62mm filter. So is the 45, and so is the 25 f1.2, and so is the 17 1.2. They're all 62mm filters, so they're all kind of the same. But that jumps up from something like the 45 1.8, which is a 37. So that's like, it's a big size difference, really. So those are the differences. The Spectrum Theatre is asking, I should really be putting these on screen. There we go. The Spectrum Theatre. What is the best wide-angle lens for macro, not including the fisheye? I mean, probably as wide as you're going to get up close, not including the fisheye, is probably going to be the 30. It's not that wide, I know. I mean, you could use the 7 to 14. You can get fairly close with the 7 to 14 as well. But again, you're going to experience that kind of level of distortion. 12 to 40, super close with the 12 to 40 Pro zoom. That's also an excellent one to go for on that one. Hopefully that gives you a good answer. Now, so we talked about compression. We've had a little look at these lenses. When I did this, let me put my hand back up there. There you go. You can see those little tiny dust spots that are in my Bokeh. I am so ashamed. There are people shouting at me saying, you should be ashamed. You should be very ashamed. And I am. But it gives me a point to work on, that you should absolutely be making sure that your lenses are super clean if you're looking for Bokeh, because if you have dust on either the front or rear element, a lot of people forget about the rear element, then you're going to get these tiny little spots. Okay, you don't want that, because you're going to have to clone them out in post edit, or and if there's a big one, you're going to have to clone out a lot, particularly if we're looking at things like fairy lights and things like that. So let's see. Get yourself a good cleaning kit. Okay, I'm just going to pull this in here. I'm just going to make this, give it a little bit wider there. There we go. Get yourself a good cleaning kit, okay, that contains all of the things that you need to make sure that your lenses stay nice and clean. All right. I've even got the white gloves, okay, because you'll be surprised at how easy it is to clean a lens up and then almost instantly put a fingerprint on the front element. So always have my my gloves nice and handy to keep these lenses clean. And I'm going to pop them on now. We're going to do just a quick, completely unnecessary demonstration of how to keep a lens clean really simply. Now, this cleaning kit is not just for lenses, okay? There's a lot of stuff in here for other things as well. But what I'm going to use for cleaning my lenses is a blower. And I also have a microfiber cloth. And it's up to you whether or not you use one or not, but you could also get a lens pen, and that's entirely up to you. You don't particularly have to. The most important things that you do, I'm just going to move the rest of my kit away. The most important thing that you do is that you make sure that you pay as much attention to the front element, there we go, as you do the rear element in here as well. Now, don't be applying any major pressure to this area here. There are some rear elements that move, and there are some that are sunken in, depending on whether or not they take the converters or not. So gently is the way forward. The first thing that you ever want to do in terms of cleaning any lenses is you want to get rid of the dust. You're going to use your blower, and you want to basically have it upside down and just blow all the dust out. You don't want to blow it down like this, because you're just moving that dust around on the same plane. So do it like this, so that dust falls out. And then once you've got that, you have a microfiber cloth, and you can very gently, most of the time, all you'll need to do is just very gently go around in a circular motion and just check. You should have a nice clean lens. Let's get a bit closer on that one as well. So you're just nice shiny lens, okay? Now, what you might think as well is that if you look right in the corners between the glass and the kind of rim of the build here, you might not be able to get right into those. You don't have to get right into those, because there is actually a slight amount of distance between there where the light doesn't go through. On the inside, you can just see it's about two millimeters that you don't need to worry about. But you do need to just make sure that you're just gently going around this. If you want, you can use your lens pen as well, but gently. So that's the key word to it. dust off and gently, because dust is what's going to cause the problem with these Bokeh balls that you're going to collect. Okay, so once you've done that, and you want to do the same thing to your rear element. Now mine are all clean because I've done this earlier today, so we're just going to give that a very, very gentle circular motion, nice and clean. You can see its reflection there, no dusty spots, perfect. Now what are you going to do? Whoops, you're going to throw your rear cap around. What's going to happen now is that you're going to put on your dusty rear cap. So you're going to introduce dust straight away. So when you do your lens cleaning, you should really make sure that the front cap, the back cap and the front cap are part of the clean as well. So make sure there's no dust in there. Give them a good blow, because then you don't want to be introducing dust the minute you do that. And then the same thing with your lens caps, because lens caps gets dirty. We take them off, we chuck them in our pocket, and they pick up lint and all sorts of stuff. So you just make sure, little soft brush, and make sure there's no dust in there before you pop that back on as well. And then that's going to keep your lens nice and clean, and it's going to keep all those little sort of grains of dust spots away from your Bokeh. Let's get the white gloves off. It's all good and well, but they're very slippery to handle everything else. So let's put them to one side. So make sure you keep your kit nice and clean. Let's see what questions and comments we've got about keeping kit clean. Okay. Stuart says it's really hard to clean the rear element on the 4150 and the 300. If you're finding it difficult, yeah, don't do it. Don't attempt to get in there and do it. Some of those rear elements are sunken in as well. So yeah, you don't want to do that, but try and just keep that area clean and keep your rear caps clean as well. That'll help. Charlie and Dana, good to see you. Why do you prefer microfiber over lens paper? Well, you see, actually, I've got those as well. So it's just, it was easier with the microfiber today. And I don't particularly not like microfiber. It's just, it was easier for it. So I do use a combination of the two. But microfibers can be washed rather than lens papers. Trevor, let's put Trevor's comment up. It's a little bit longer. Are the wet lens cleaning cloths that are mainly for glasses okay to use on lenses? Normally keep packing in the camera bag. You know, you can get specific lens cleaning wipes that are wet, and they're probably identical to the ones that you would clean your glasses on. The only thing I would say is remember that any sort of liquids, realistically, you want to know what's in that liquid, because your lenses have coatings on them. You know, you can use some liquids that are tested for lenses, with some really good brand names behind them. You're fine. But if you don't know what's in them, if they're meant for spectacles, for glasses, I would err on the side of caution, but the likelihood is that they will be almost identical. Just be super careful with them. Chris, hey Chris, does internal dust have an effect? You always hear lens has some dust but will not affect image quality. Yeah, so your lenses are weather sealed and the dust proofing is there, but there has to be some allowance for air to move through, otherwise it would cause a vacuum and you wouldn't be able to, you know, zoom and things like that. It's mainly on zooms. And internal dust, you know, realistically, you shouldn't get enough in there to have an effect on your image quality. The dust will have an effect when it's sitting on the outside of those rear and front elements, and particularly when you see stop down apertures, so, you know, past f11. And when we're wide open and we're creating these Bokeh balls, you'll see little glimmers of it if it's there as well. But you shouldn't have any problem with internal dust. Steve, no wet applications for cleaning. I don't personally use wet applications. No, it depends. I mean, if you've been out in the rain and it has got wet, try to clean it with a dry, clean microfiber cloth whilst it's still slightly wet, and you'll take away those spots. But like I say, you can get specific graded lens cleaning liquid. Yeah, Zeiss cloths. Yeah, absolutely. You can use those. They're very easy to get hold of. Zeiss cloths have been used. And Charles says, oh, Charles got Pen F. Beautiful. What would be the best fast lens? Ow, that's the golden question. It depends on what you want to do. Pen F works very well with the 75 1.8. It's a slightly bigger lens, but it's a really, really good one. If you wanted to keep it light and you want to do street stuff, then you've got 17mm 1.8 as well. If you wanted to keep it light and you're doing portraiture, 45mm 1.8 all the way. That one there is the one that I would be using. Okay, right. Sometimes do a gentle huff before cleaning. Don't huff. Stuart, I'm calling you out on that one. No huffing. No, I know what you mean. Stuart's basically saying is what's going on with these lenses now. It's not ideal, but yeah, providing you've not been eating anything vicarious, dodgy, chippy. Yeah, you're right. Then you should be fine. But get a little blower. One of these little things. These are brilliant, and you know they're also like a fidget. If you get bored, you can sit and squeeze those as well. So these are fantastic. Okay, what should we do now? Yeah, let's go to a demo. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pop a 20mm. We'll start at the 20mm, work our way up. I'm just going to pop this. I've got an OM1 here. But switch it on. That would help. And I'm going to switch that light off just so that we've got a little bit of a darker action to go from. So I've put the 20mm on my OM1. Let's go ahead and see what's going on there. There we go. So it's a little bit busy on screen at the moment, but you'll see there I've got our old OM10, our old OM10. It's really old now and it doesn't work, but it's a very good prop for stuff that I use. And we've just got a seasonal Lego figure in there because I'm a bit Lego mad. And actually, this was my Secret Santa gift from one of my beautiful colleagues here at OM Digital Solutions. So thank you, Secret Santa, for the Lego Penguin, which is fantastic. And the Lego Penguin is taken over from Chewbacca. Okay, this looks really, really busy at the moment, okay, because we've got all the information on there. I can get rid of that by pressing the info button a few times. And that clears off the image for me. And then if I need to see my basic settings like aperture and shutter, then I just need to rotate one of the dials and that will come back up at the bottom. So I can make those changes and see that. And if I need to change the ISO, again, I can do that. But this is giving me a nice clean view. If I want it back, I can just press the info button again until I get the information that I want to see. Now, let's get that back to where I want it to be. 1.4 at about a 40th of a second. That gives it a nice feeling, a nice warmth, a nice depth. It's keeping the darks dark, keeping the brights bright. We can see that lovely bokeh in the background. And all that is little fairy lights on a wire all scattered around back there. Now, what I want to show you, first of all, is that no matter what I do to my aperture here, despite it going brighter and darker, those bokeh balls don't change, and you'd think that they would, but they won't do while you're in a live view, because the live view always shows you what the scene looks like whilst that aperture is wide open. It's constantly showing you a wide open aperture. Okay, so if I want to see exactly what my true aperture is, if I'm not shooting wide open, if I was say shooting at f4, let me just slow the shutter speed down so that equalizes the exposure. If I want to see the true depth of field here at f4, because what I'm seeing is a wide open view of f1.4, then I need to use my depth of field preview button. Now, most of the cameras have a depth of field preview button on the front. There's two buttons, and the lower one next to the grip will be the depth of field preview button. If I press and hold it down, then we get our true depth of field that will occur once we've taken the image. If I release it and press it, you can see that's the difference between 1.4, which is our open wide view, and f4, which is what I've measured my camera to. So that's a really, really great way to see exactly what depth of field and what bokeh you're going to get versus your aperture. Now, of course, if you really want the greatest bokeh, you're going to go wide open. So we're going to keep this down to 1.4 and make our adjustments so that it looks just about right. There we go. Actually, I'm getting a reading of -1.3 EV. And that's to be expected because there's a huge amount of dark area in this image. Okay, so I'm pretty much going by eye on this one to create an atmospheric look. So we're getting lovely, lovely bokeh here. Really nice and smooth and round. This is on a 20mm 1.4, really beautifully smooth and round. And that's a key, something to look for as we move forward, is how smooth and how round the bokeh changes as we change the lenses. Before we take a picture, I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about finding finer focus, because if I move, I'm on a single focus point here. If I move that around, this is the OM1, you'll see that there are quite large jumps between where that focus point is going, and actually I'm not able to find the exact point that I want to focus on because of that gap in between. Now that's the default single movement of the target modes. I can create a custom target mode which will make that target mode area move a lot smoother and in smaller increments. So at the moment we've got these kind of big jumps between each positioning. So I'm going to hit the menu, and from the menu I'm going to go to the AF tab, and I'm going to go into page 5 and AF target mode settings. And in there, I'm going to come down, I'm going to create a custom mode, C1. I'm going to press OK so that it ticks it so that it's available. I'm going to press the right arrow key so that I can go ahead and program it. I'm going to program the size down to a 1:1, and I'm going to leave the step where it is, which is also 1:1. And that gives me access to every single creep point across the screen, okay, rather than if it was, oops, if I press the info button and change the step sizing, that reduces how many creep points I have on the screen, and it would jump about a lot more. We don't want that. So I'm going to reduce this down to 1:1, and that gives me access to everything. Press OK. And then when I go back to my live view, raise my target mode and scroll through to my custom, I've now got nice smooth increments across the board, and I can find a more specific point that I want to focus on, like that. Nice and easy. Okay, so got that nice movement in my AF point. I found a nice place to focus on. We're going to take this shot. There we go. And then that's our final result. We've got really lovely quality in the in-focus areas, and then we've got really lovely quality in the out-of-focus bokeh as well. So superb. So the differences we're going to see, I'm going to leave that up just for a second. While that's up, we're going to move across to, that's the 20mm. We're going to now move across to the 25mm f1.8 version, okay? So this is the non-pro version. We'll have to move the camera as well as we go through this, because the compression point changes for these as we go up in focal lengths, okay? So now we're completely out of focus. There we go, but you can see those fairy lights are quite nice and sharp. I bring my foreground into focus. So now we're on the 25 f1.8. Okay, slight difference in focal length, slight difference in the way the bokeh is reproduced in here as well. So let's take that picture and let's make a comparison. So this is our 20mm 1.4 and then our 25mm 1.8. Now the differences you'll see is obviously the focal length change, but also the bokeh balls get slightly smaller, not a lot, but slightly, because we've gone from 1.4 to 1.8. All right, so that is a little bit of a difference, and that's what you need to be thinking about when it comes down to how big you want that out of focus area. Okay, before I go and put the 25 f1.2 on, I'm going to come back in here and just look at some more questions. Let's have a quick look. Jeff, can you have the metering attached to the C1 spot? Yes, if you have spot metering attached on, it will go from that single spot area. Tim said, does switching to video mode change any aspects of the bokeh rendering with these lenses? No, if you're operating wide open, the bokeh should remain the same, providing you're focusing on the subject and the distance between your subject and the background is all the same. It should all be exactly the same. Let's find another one. There we go. Terry's using the 17mm 1.8 with the Pen F. That was in response to Charles's question about what lens is best for the Pen F. And Badger Rag has the 40 to 150 Pro and just lost the lens cap. Any recommendations for a cheap alternative? There are tons out there. Just make sure you get the right filter. If you're not bothered about a brand name on the front, there are loads and loads and loads. Check the filter size on that one, and you should be able to come up with hundreds and hundreds. If I could count all the lens caps that I've lost in my lifetime, then I would, on my hands, I'd have lots of different fingers. Good. Yeah, so we've got another question here. Deborah. Hey, Deborah. Good to see you again. Am I allowed to ask how the OM1 works with Lens Baby for creative effects? Of course you are. Yeah. Lens Babies do create creative effects. The one thing that you'll probably want to think about with the Lens Baby is that when you're manually focusing, you might not quite know what's in focus. So you can program a button on your OM to give you focus peaking when you're using manual focus with those Lens Baby lenses. They'll work fantastically well, as they are designed to work. You'll just need to add that button into the customization to make sure that you can see where you're focusing, if you have a problem, of course. Okay, Trevor, well spotted. The Bokeh balls are softer edges on the 1.4. You're right, they are, and they will get even softer when we look at the 1.2 versions as well, so keep your eyes open for those. Let's go back over. So that was our 25 f1.8. Okay, so I am going to now put on a 25 mm 1.2, if I can find it on my desk, because they all look very similar. The 25 1.2 is going on. We won't see any difference in the focal length, but what you'll see here straight away is that I've not moved my camera and I am not able to focus, okay, because I'm too close now. The 25mm f1.2 Pro needs a bigger distance for focusing. So that means we have to move the camera away until we can find focus a little bit more. Let's bring that in there. There we go. So now, oops, try there. There we go. So now we are on the same focal length, but we've just had to move back a bit purely because of that close focusing distance, okay? Now look at the Bokeh balls. Look at the shape of that. You've got this feathered actuation there now. So they look a little bit lemon-shaped, some of them. And there is a feathering happening there. If we look at the difference between our f1.8 and our f1.2. So we're seeing that lovely feathering, much softer. The rendering is much cleaner because it's got pro-graded lens. And you've got that lovely feathering shape that goes on there. And then this obviously changes as you change direction with lenses anyway. So you'll get some fluctuations in the shape as you change direction. If anything's in the way or if there's anything casting a shadow, you will see that. And we're going to look at something interesting at the end of the session. But that's the first step into the 1.2 zone where we get that lovely feathered bokeh. Now, we'll leave that up and we're going to jump now to the next focal length, which is 45mm. It's my favorite focal length for portraits. It just works so beautifully well. I'm going to pop on the f1.8. And then again, what we will see straight away, if my camera wakes up, there we go, is that we cannot focus again because going up to the 45 now, I do also again need to increase that distance between the camera and the subject. I also need to adjust my camera's angle slightly as well. So we're going to come a little bit further back. And there we go. Let's just tilt this up a little bit. But you can see now as we go further back, we're also seeing less of those Bokeh balls, but look how beautifully clean and round they've now become. Okay, so as we're increasing that focal length, we're compressing the value of this more and more and more. And we'll take that shot there and we'll have a little comparison between the 25 focal length distance and the 45. So that changes that crop intensely. And we're getting that really, really lovely beautiful sharpness, but beautiful soft round balls in the 45 1.8. So that's the cheaper version of the lens as well, which is creating that really, really nice effect. Hence why it was one of my absolute favorites before the 1.2 version came out. Okay, I'm coming back into the comments. I'll try and catch up. So it's all about reading and talking at the same time, which I don't think I'm very good at. Bob's asked, how do we prevent fungus? Don't put your lenses near any other lenses that may have previously had or have fungus, because you never get rid of it anyway. Don't keep them in humid environments for a long time. Dark, humid environments. Yeah, you know, attics are the worst. Attics and cellars, two places not to keep lenses, but you know, that's what we did back in the day. We kept everything in the attic or in the cellar. So don't do that, and you should find that they'll be all right. Stuart, salt water on the lens. Often working in sea conditions, and you use a UV filter to keep to at least keep away from the lens. To wash the lens under a tap to get the spray off attached to the body. I wouldn't I wouldn't wash it under the tap. So it seems a bit extreme. We have got some ambassadors that have sprayed the front element or the front of the lens with a misting bottle, a spray bottle with distilled water in there that just washes that salt away, and then allows you to just gently dry with a microfiber. That's the best way. Don't pop it under a tap. There are many user videos of that happening. We can't, as a corporate says, I can't recommend, so I don't. Okay, let's see what else we got. Deborah, is the sync port to the right of the letter S a screw on or otherwise? The PC sync port, yeah, it is a very, very short screw thread. But again, if you've lost that, then there are lots of, you can get, there's a standard PC sync cover. So yeah, it is a slight screw. Okay, let's see. Tim, the size, price, and performance of the f1.8 lenses make them perfect for vlogging. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that my space here is so dark, and that's why I use the 17mm 1.2 for my webcam. Otherwise, I would use the shorter, more compact 17 1.8. But I need the extra light, and anything to help me look a little bit better. As out of focus background works really well. You can't put a price on good lights either. That's so important. Good. Okay. Right. Let's go ahead. Let's go back. What were we on? Oh, the 45 1.8. That was delicious. Right. Okay. Let's go over to that one. So that's the last image from the 45 1.8. Now I'm going to put on the lordy, the absolute amazing. Oh, actually, before I pop that on, I have just spotted a dust spot on the front of my 45 1.2. So I'm going to quickly get rid of that because I don't want to see that in the Bokeh. And it just shows how easily dust can reattract to your lenses, because I did clean all these not 2 hours ago. Okay, so still at 45mm. There we go. We can focus there because it's at the same focusing distance as the 45 1.8. All right, but the compression here is just absolutely fantastic. So again, we're seeing nice feathered edges on that 45mm 1.2. I'm actually just gonna scan up here. Okay, I'm going to put the camera into manual focus. So this is fully defocused. That's our fully defocused Bokeh in there. Absolutely glorious, really soft edges, really nice. Take a quick picture. And then I'm also just going to pan back down to our scene. If I can get it level, there we go. Pop that clutch and then focus again where we were, because we weren't actually getting much Bokeh in that original frame. So that's what your Bokeh is going to look like. That's the full size on the f1.2. Really lovely, beautiful feather. It's just such a nice effect. And then this is back on our subject scene. Now, that is how cool those lenses are. And also, hopefully that's given you a good idea of, sorry for the squeaky chair, by the way. I'm due another chair. I must put that on my list. Need a new chair. Hopefully that's given you an idea of the differences between those 1.2s and 1.8s, and also how that compression value changes when we go up from the lovely 20mm all the way up to sort of 45 and then 60, which I haven't shown you yet. Have I got time? I don't think I've got time to show you this. I'm going to do it anyway. Who cares about the time, right? Let's do it. Let's go back to the feed. Let's put the 60mm on, because I want you to see on the 60 that lovely hexagonal Bokeh that we're gonna achieve. Let's have a look. There we go. So if I just pan this up, and then I'll pop it into manual focus. I haven't got a clutch on this one. So we'll go manual focus and we'll defocus. There we go. You can see that lovely, take the picture. You can see that lovely hexagonal shape that you get. Can't see anything right now because there we go. Playback's not working. Here we go. My loose cables. And you can see that lovely hexagonal shape that you get out of that. And that changes depending on the kind of size and shape of the lights that you're shooting as well. Because remember, that does have an influence on your bokeh, because we're shooting these tiny little pinpricks of light. But if you're shooting something that's bigger or has a shape to it, that's going to change as well. So that's the 60mm. Now I do need to pop back on. Let's just go back. I'll leave that on the screen for just a second. I do need to put the 45 back on, because it's that time of year when we get to be super creative. I love being super creative. I'm going to come back to that in a second. I'm going to make you wait just a few more minutes for that one. We're nearly at the hour. We've not gone over. Let's look at some of your questions going back in here. Here we go. This is a great one. The even-handed commenter. How well does the 100 to 400mm lens work with the MC20, and is the MC14 a better choice for that lens? I would say the MC14 is a better choice if you're using the 400mm end anyway, because whenever we add any converters onto any optics, there is a trade-off, there is a compromise, and we have to understand that, and that's physics. It's the way that it works. So if you magnify anything more, any trade-off compromise that you're getting is equally magnified. So I would use the MC14 pretty much constantly on the 100 to 400, the 40 to 150, brilliant, the 300, and I would use the 2 times the MC20 exclusively on the 40 to 150, probably, with the exception of the 150 to 400 beautifully magnificent Super Telephoto Pro lens, and I would use any of the converters on that plus the built-in converter. But as your question is relating to the 100 to 400, I would choose the MC14 over the MC20 for that lens to maintain quality. I hope that helps. Let's see. George, no 75mm 1.2 or 100mm 1812. We don't have one right now. I mean, if anyone's got a time machine, and you can come and let us know if this happens, and let us know. But no, George, we don't have one. That would be awesome when it's 75 1.2. Oh, that 75mm lens is absolutely glorious. It's a beautiful piece of glass. I would love to see a 1.2 version, but who knows? Sadly, not me. Let's see. MCC program. Can I use an extender or teleconverter with my Panasonic 35 to 100 f2.8 lenses? Panasonic lenses work on my Olympus camera. They do. But the converter, our converters won't work on those natively. So no, not natively. Okay. Oh, Charles. I'm just going to do Charles's question before we move on to my grand finale. Charles has asked, regarding the Ollie 100 to 400 on an OM5, it doesn't fully use the 7.5 stop-in camera lens IS, right? Right, it doesn't on any camera because the 100 to 400 isn't sync IS, but does use the in-camera IS in a restricted way. So they don't sync, but they work together. So you get lens IS, which is dealing with the pitch and the yaw. So that's the lens pointing forward. It's that business there. That's what's going on in your lens. The IS is stabilizing that. And in your camera, it's stabilizing the roll. And those two things are happening separately, but at the same time. So yes, and that's across any of the cameras because the 100 to 400 is not a sync IS lens. Great question. Right, okay. So that was me this afternoon trying to be all creative and things like that. And I thought, we've done it before, but we're going to do it again because it's Christmas and we're going to make those beautiful bokeh balls. We're going to turn them, we're going to change the shape. And how do you change the shape of your bokeh balls? Well, nice and easy. You stick a cardboard cutout over the front of your lens. That's what you do, because all we want to do is we want to shape that light that's going into there. And you could end up with a vignette of sorts. But this is where the creativeness comes in. So I've taken some little circles. These are just the size of the front of my lens, 62mm. And I'm now going to pop them on the front of this 45mm lens. and hopefully it's going to look good. Nearly 200 of you out there are going to tell me that it doesn't look good. So let's go across the feed. I've got that in my mouth. I should probably not have that in my mouth. Let's bring this down a little bit so we can see some of the subject and some of the bokeh. Let's focus. Manual. Let's focus there. So there's our round balls. I'm going to take my cardboard cutout filter. I'm going to place it nicely in front of the lens. And there we go. We've got our lovely star-shaped bokeh. Now, of course, this is blocking light, so we need to make some adjustments. You want more light in there. You're going to have this kind of filtered effect. This is the smallest of the shapes that I cut out to create these lovely little tiny stars here. There you go. There they all are. They're not star shapes in real life. They're just round bokeh balls. And in fact, if we just give you an idea, let's pull that off there. There we go. There's your round bokeh. And there's your lovely star-shaped bokeh. Very festive indeed. Let's take that picture just there. And of course, you can see there, yeah, you are getting this kind of difference in contrast because we're cutting the light right down with this kind of silly creative filter. Now, let's leave that up. Oh, in fact, let's come back to a live view. There we go. That was a filter with a star in it that big, just for reference. We can go slightly larger. And this is a star this big, and then this is what's going to happen if you put it over there. You get bigger stars. So let's do that. Take a shot. I took a couple of shots there. So that's the difference between these teeny tiny stars, and then we get slightly bigger stars. You're going to push it even further. Or if indeed, actually, you want to spread some love this joyous festive time, you can put on any shape that you want. There we go. A little bit of heart-shaped bokeh. Absolutely glorious. My girls love this. My kids, we like making little Christmas cards and things, and they love doing that. Let's take that one off there and have a quick look. There you go. And it's just a bit of fun. You know, this is really old school. This is really, oh, sorry, my cable's been really not good today. Let's bring it back. There we go. Fantastic. It's really just a creative way to do it. It's very, very old school. Okay, so that's a heart shape. And just because I thought we should be super, super festive, I've done this one as well. So we've got some Christmas trees that we can do. And that looks super cool up there, all the Christmas trees. You could just take a picture like that if you wanted to. But there we go, Christmas tree bokeh. Absolutely fantastic. Nice and easy as well if you want to make some changes up to your scene. And of course, remember, depending on what shape you've got on there, you can twist and turn. You know, if you turn your filter, they're going to do this. And then just to give you an idea, that's the size within the filter that we were using. So that pretty much brings me to the end of my hour that I had with you on this kind of final Tech Thursday of the year. So I thought I'd end it with a bit of fun, and hopefully you'll all want to just have a go with that. You can do it with any size lens, really. The longer the focal length, the better. That was on the 45mm 1.2. If you're doing it with the 25, you need to make the whole shapes a little bit smaller, but ultimately it works very, very well. So have a little play with that. I'm just going to pop up. I love a last-minute question. Andreas has said, are there any issues with the 8mm fisheye and Starry Sky AF? My pics are all soft. Starry Sky AF with other lenses works just fine. No, there shouldn't be. I'd perhaps have the rear element checked on that 8mm lens, or have the lens checked in general. It should be crystal clean, beautiful clarity with that one. So perhaps get one of us to check it over for you. And Ricky Star, what a festive name as well. Ricky, any recommendations for square filter systems for my OMD EM10 Mark II? Yes. I mean, my personal preference for actual filter system is the Lee 7 system. It's a square filter system with an adapter, and the adapter system works well for Micro Four Thirds lenses. So yeah, I use the Lee 7 one. But there are lots out there. That's just my opinion. One of many. Okay, so thanks for being here all year, actually, for coming into all of what was Tech Tuesday and is now Tech Thursday, and continuing your support for us as a business and as a tech team and as a community. It's been great. 2022 has been a flyby year. It's absolutely disappeared. I'm really looking forward to getting into 2023. I'll be back in January for Tech Thursdays. The other tech experts will be around for the Ask Me Anythings. Some point, maybe January, but probably likely February. There's even going to be a new studio because I'm up and moving. I'm going to get a new background. It's all going to be fun. And we're all going to go screaming into 2023 gently so that nothing crazy happens. Okay. But you're all wonderful. So thank you very much for taking part. If you need anything at all from us here at OM Systems, you've only got to reach out to us via our emails or via social media, and we'll be there for you. But however you're celebrating or not, have a wonderful next couple of weeks, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side. But bye for now.